Krishna. We'll start with the invocation prayers. Om Ajnanatirmirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapatakamanam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadutam Parijan Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishvanu Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarupascha Kripa Sindhu Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Thank you all for coming. So quick announcements before we begin today. First, I will share a slide on the screen that exactly a month from now, from 20 July 2025 on Sundays, there's a new batch of Srimad Bhagavatam starting, which is at batch 5. Toronto time is 9:30 a.m. India time is 7 p.m. Nepal time is 7:15 p.m. All of you are welcome to join the Bhagavatam class simultaneous to your Bhagavad Gita study. If you are not able to join the second class, I would request all of you to at least join the first two overview classes of Srimad Bhagavatam for two Sundays. That will give you a lot of information because we keep hearing about Srimad Bhagavatam, we keep talking about Srimad Bhagavatam. So we need to know what exactly is Srimad Bhagavatam. Essentially, Srimad Bhagavatam is Krishna himself. So it's a very good opportunity for all of you to study Srimad Bhagavatam systematically in devotee association. And you will realize, many devotees have mentioned from the previous batches, that from the Bhagavatam class, their quality of japa has improved. So if you are serious about your spirituality, consider this opportunity. There's no pressure on anybody. You have to consider your own circumstances. But here's an opportunity for you to increase your devotional endeavor more and more and more. And as Rath Yatra festivals are happening all over the world, it's a good opportunity to do preaching endeavor to get new souls to Bhagavad Gita study and to get them closer to Krishna, as well as you can spread the word around among your circles. Questions, comments, realizations? All right. The second point, are you all liking the brain teaser homework questions?
Hare
No?
Krishna, Prabhuji.
Go ahead, Ritu.
Again, it is very difficult to say yes, Prabhuji.
All right. Janisha.
Yes, Prabhuji. It keeps our mind engaged all the time.
Very good. Rest of you?
Yes, Prabhuji. I have a small incident that happened. Is I think somewhere on the billboard I saw the word uh, bomb, right? Atom something, and then as I was driving, I just got related. Okay, okay. Prabhuji had asked that question. What can like atom bomb not? The question. So that way also, mind was constantly being engaged. So
Very
that
good.
was I realized that this
Yeah,
week.
very good. This is very good practice. We have discussed this in 2.62, that we cannot stop seeing, but we have to use Shastra Chakshu, that whatever we see, whatever we hear, we have to relate with scriptures. Very good. So by end of class today, we're gonna get a mandatory spiritual endeavor question, brain teaser, my seemingly innocuous open-ended questions. And again, these are mandatory questions. So the approach should be, there are only a couple of individuals who are not answering these open-ended questions. I have asked them to connect with me and they are not even connecting with me. So I can't really help you. So if you are behind on your listening to class recordings, the proper approach that I have described is that you should continue current class and current endeavor, and little by little try to catch up on the previous. Otherwise, you will never be caught up. Otherwise, you will always be behind. So there are only couple more of such open-ended questions left. So you have to become diligent. You have to become serious and endeavor on these questions. These are really important, and as Sumnima described, practical example, this will stick on you. These seemingly innocuous open questions are going to make you remember Krishna, whether or not you realize that you are remembering Krishna. So end of the class, you're going to get a real important, seemingly innocuous open-ended question, and try to answer on the Google form that I will submit after the class. Very important that you complete the answer to those questions by end of day Wednesday, and you will all realize the importance of that. So today we will cover Bhagavad Gita chapter 9 from the start. At the end of our previous class, we did discuss chapter 9 briefly, and I will repeat those same points, some of which you have already heard of it. So we are in the heart of Bhakti section of Bhagavad Gita. Chapters 1 to 6 talk about how karma leads to bhakti. Chapters 13 to 18 talk about how jnana leads to bhakti. And chapters 7 to 12 focus directly on bhakti. So in chapter 7, Krishna briefly introduced bhakti. And chapter 8, there was a comparison of bhakti yoga and ashtanga yoga. And in 8.14, Krishna established that bhakti process is easier to attain the same goal of fixing mind on Krishna. Chapter 9 is titled The Most Confidential Knowledge. In Sanskrit is Raja Guhya Yoga. The word most confidential comes from 9.1 and 9.2, as well as the Sanskrit words also come from these verses, where the verse says Raja Vidya Raja Guhyam. Raja Guhyam means king of confidential knowledge. Hence the Sanskrit title of chapter 9 is Raja Guhya Yoga. Chapter 9, 19 of the 34 verses are key verses, means more than 50% of the verses are key verses. So obviously you can remember it's such an important chapter. So last class we already discussed one of the open-ended homework question from before as to what is the middle of Bhagavad Gita. So there are various ways you can look at the middle of Bhagavad Gita. Because Bhagavad Gita has even number of 18 chapters, therefore chapters 9 and 10 are the middle chapters. And if you look at the midpoint that the last verse of chapter 9, which is 9.34, and the first verse of chapter 10, 10.1, are the midpoint this way. So the middle of Bhagavad Gita, meaning these two verses, 9.34, is called by acharyas as the essence of the essence of the essence of the essence verse, plus 9.34 is the only almost repeated verse as 18.65. Why these four essences? So 9.34 is the essence of chapter 9. Chapter 9 is the essence of Bhakti section. Bhakti section is the essence of Bhagavad Gita, and Bhagavad Gita is the essence of all Vedic literature. Thus, 9.34 is called by acharyas as the essence of the essence of the essence of the essence verse. And 10.1 verse is also very important verse. 10.1 verse has the words Shrunu me paramam vacha, means hear this supreme instruction. And these words paramam vacha gets repeated towards the end of Bhagavad Gita when Krishna is summarizing the important instructions. And if you look at from the verse count, and because Bhagavad Gita has even number of 700 verses, therefore it's not one verse, but there will be two midpoint verses. So if you do the count of verses of each chapter in sequence, the 350th and 351st verse will be 9.13 and 9.14 verse. So from the verse count, the middle these two verses, 9.13 verse refers to Srimati Radharani, and 9.14, the next verse is obviously a key memorization verse referring to pure devotees. So both these verses 9.13, 9.14 are also very important verses referring to Srimati Radharani and pure devotees. And the fourth way of looking at the middle of the word of Bhagavad Gita is bhakti. That bhakti is also the center of Bhagavad Gita. So some of you did get components of this question right. This spectacular. Thank you all for endeavoring. And you will notice that in chapter 9 and some of chapter 10, the purports are also slightly longer. Any questions, comments, realizations so far? So for chapter 9, I had asked you all to have a legal size page in landscape, 2/3 on the left side and 1/3 on the right side. On the left side, on the front side of the page, you can write chapter 9, section 1, and the second half of the page on the 2/3 left side, you can write chapter 9, section 2. And on the back side, can again have 2/3 on the left side where you will write chapter 9, sections 3, 4, and 5. And the 1/3 right side, you can leave it blank, even though you will have space. After you write section 1 and section 2 of chapter 9, you will still have a lot of space, but leave that open. You will soon realize that when we populate the 1/3 of the right side, you will realize the reason for this. So I will run a little slide just so that we are following chapter 9 sections. All right. Okay, so as I described, have 2/3 left side, 1/3 right side, and you start populating chapter 9, section 1. So chapter 9 is very much similar to chapter 7, and both chapters have similar sections. So I had asked all of you to also bring chapter 7 section divisions. Now, chapter 9, section 1, so you're populating on the 2/3 left side of your document, or if you're writing electronically on the 2/3 side. So section 1 is verses 1 to 3. Title is Develop Kevala Bhakti by Developing Knowledge about Krishna. That those who understand Krishna devotionally, they are the best. Goal is to develop Kevala Bhakti. And for that, we have to start by understanding about Krishna. The most confidential knowledge is not just the knowledge of glory of Krishna, but is also the glory of the path of love for Krishna. Means the glory of the path of Bhakti Yoga. Now, chapter 9, section 2. So you will have space under section 1. Leave that space. You will realize very soon. Leave that space as it is. Right, for chapter 9, section 2. So section 2 is verses 4 to 10. Krishna's inconceivable relationship with material world. So section 2 has 2 subsections. Section 2, subsection 1 is verses 4 to 6. Title is His Relationship with Souls. And subsection 2, under section 2, is verses 7 to 10. His relationship with material energy. So chapter 9 will first help us establish and help us understand the supreme position of Krishna by looking at his relationship with this world. Then chapter 9 will talk about the position of that process, means the Bhakti Yoga process, which conquers even Krishna. We understand the supremacy of Krishna, and then we understand the process that conquers Krishna. Oh, what a process this is, that it conquers the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, our appreciation for this Bhakti Yoga process increases even more. So because Krishna's relationship with this world is complex, is inconceivable, therefore not all people understand it properly. So now, although you have space on the front side of your page, I want you to leave that blank and flip your page, and on the back side of your page, 2/3 on the left side, take notes for chapter 9, section 3. So section 3 is verses 11 to 19. those who understand Krishna in various ways. So you have a lot to write for section 3, so you can consider to write in small font. Section 3 has 4 subsections. Subsection 1 is verses 11 and 12. Impersonalists mistake Krishna's body to be material. Subsection 2 under section 3 is verses 13 and 14. Kevala Bhaktas devote themselves utterly to Supreme Lord Krishna. Section 3, subsection 3 is verse 15 alone. Title is 3 Types of People. So I will describe the Sanskrit of this and the Sanskrit words come directly from verse number 15. So first is Ekatvena, that I am myself Brahman. Then Prathaktavena Bahuda means worship of demigods. And third is Vishwato Mukham, means the worship of universal form. So understand what is happening, that section 3, subsection 1 is one extreme of Mayavadis, and section 3, subsection 2, verses 13, 14 is the other extreme of pure devotees. And then there are a whole spectrum of other people that fall between these two extremes, and Krishna describes them in 9.15. And 9.15 is the second junction point in Bhagavad Gita. As part of the homework, the open-ended question, I'll talk about the first junction point. So 9.15 is the second junction point in Bhagavad Gita. 9.15 is a seed verse for a lot of discussion that follow from 9.15 up to end of chapter 12. So verse number 15 is a central verse to understanding the subsequent flow of Bhagavad Gita up to end of chapter 12. So all these points of Ekatvena means I am Brahman will get discussed in 12.5. Then Prathaktavena Bahuda refers to demigod worship will get discussed in chapter 9 verses 20 to 28, where Krishna will do a comparison between demigod worship and Krishna worship. And then Vishwato Mukham is the idea of worshipping the universal form. So this discussion of universal form is briefly discussed in chapter 9 verses 16 to 19, and then a whole chapter 11. So Krishna talks about pure devotional service in verse 13 and 14, and this will get elaborated in chapter 9 section 5 verses, as well as chapter 10 the first 11 verses, after which Arjuna will ask a question about Vibhuti Yoga and Krishna will answer to that question about Vibhuti Yoga in chapter 10. And then chapter 9, section 3, subsection 4 is verses 16 to 19, which is worship of universal form. Now, chapter 9, section 4 is verses 20 to 28. Kevala Bhakti is far superior to demigod worship. Krishna will say here that demigod worshippers are also worshipping him, but they do so in a wrong way. But those who worship him purely, those who focus on pure devotional service of Krishna, are far better. And then section 9 is verses 29 to 34. Sorry, chapter 9, section 5. I must have misspoken. So chapter 9, section 5 is verses 29 to 34. Kevala Bhakti elevates even the most fallen. So Krishna talks about the glory of Kevala Bhakti, that how devotion to Krishna liberates even the most fallen. So now I want you to go back to your page number 1, where you had populated section 1 and section 2. So you have 1/3 of the right side of the page. So you can write down here, or you can make the reference to chapter 7 references from your chapter 7 chapter division. But I will repeat right now. It's easier to write down and do the comparison. So right now you are writing on the right side of your page, the 1/3 right side of your page, which are highlighted in blue on the screen. So chapter 7, section 1, subsection 1. So chapter 7, section 1 is verses 1 to 12. Title is Know Krishna in Full. And subsection 1 is verses 1 to 3 of chapter 7. Title is Glory of the Knowledge about Krishna. So if you do the comparison, that chapter 7 verses 1, 2 and 3, what are they talking about? So chapter 7.1 says, Arjuna is being given, starting with Maya Sakta Mana Partha, to Tachunu, that hear about this, that this knowledge will help you get attached to Krishna. 7.2 states that this knowledge is complete, there will be nothing more to know. And 7.3 states this knowledge is very rare. So if you do a side-by-side comparison of 7.1 to 7.3, which are very much similar to chapter 9, section 1, verses 1, 2, and 3. So chapter 9, section 1 says, develop Kevala Bhakti by developing knowledge about Krishna. That's exactly what Krishna had talked about in chapter 7, section 1. Everybody follows? Yes, no, silence.
Prabhuji, can you? I was not able to match. Can you repeat this point once again?
Okay. So let me repeat from the start of chapter 7. So chapter 7, so you're populating on the right side of your page 1, 1/3 side. Chapter 7, section 1 is verses 1 to 12. Know Krishna in full. And chapter 7, section 1 has 3 subsections. Subsection 1 is verses 1 to 3. title is Glory of the Knowledge of Krishna. So 7.1 is Maya Sakta Mana Partha and goes all the way to Trachunu, that hear about this. This knowledge will help you get attached to Krishna. 7.2 states that this knowledge is complete. There is nothing more to know. And 7.3 states that this knowledge is very rare. So these 7.1 to 3 verses are very much similar to chapter 9, section 1, verses 1 to 3, where the title is Develop Kevala Bhakti by developing knowledge about Krishna. Essentially, chapter 9, section 1, the first 3 verses, and chapter 7, the first 3 verses, are very much similarly talking about develop the knowledge about Krishna. Abhishek Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Somebody else had unmuted, I don't know who. Everybody on the same page?
Yes,
Good.
Prabhuji.
All right, thank you. Now, you are again populating on the page 1 of your printout and 1/3 side, where you are now writing chapter 7, section 1, and you have subsections 2 and 3. So subsection 2 is verses 4 to 7. Title is Krishna is source of everything, material and spiritual. And chapter 7, section 1, subsection 3 is verses 8 to 12. Krishna pervades everything. So in chapter 7, these verses, subsection 2 and 3, talks about material and spiritual energies of Krishna. Talks about how Krishna pervades material existence, and talks about how Krishna is beyond the modes. And now if you do a comparison side by side, that chapter 7, verses 7 to 12 are very much similar to chapter 9, section 2, verses 4 to 10, which talks about Krishna's inconceivable relationship with material world. Everybody can see the comparison? Everybody on the same page? Silence.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhu.
Very good, thank you. Okay, now you flip your page. On your page 2, you are writing on the 1/3 right side of your page. So, chapter 7, section 2, subsection 1 is verses 13 and 14. Why surrender? Then chapter 7, section 2, subsection 2 is verse number 15 only. That those who surrender, those who do not surrender to Krishna. So chapter 7, section 2, subsection 2 is verse 15. Those who do not surrender to Krishna. And then subsection 3 is verses 16 to 19. Those who surrender to Krishna. So if you do a comparison, that chapter 7, verses 13 to 19 are very much similar to chapter 9, section 3, verses 11 to 19, that those who surrender to Krishna in various ways. Everybody can see the comparison side by side.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Only few of you, I don't know, rest of you are silent.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Thank you.
Yes, Prabhuji.
All right. Now, chapter 7, section 2 subsection 4, which is verses 20 to 24. Title is Those Who Surrender to Demigods. So if you compare chapter 7 verses 20 to 24 are very much similar to chapter 9 section 4 verses 20 to 28, where it says Kevala Bhakti is far superior to demigod worship. And then you see chapter 7 section 3 is verses 26 to 30. Title is How Soul Gets Liberated by Knowledge about Krishna. So chapter 7 section 3 is again very much similar and closely tied to chapter 9 section 5, that Kevala Bhakti elevates even the most fallen. Can you see how chapter 9 and chapter 7 are very much similar chapters?
Yes, Prabhuji.
So here's a question. Why would Krishna repeat a whole chapter? It's like remarkable that the sections are also similarly laid out. Anybody can think of why would Krishna repeat a whole chapter?
Maybe Prabhuji, that's the most important thing.
Okay, very good.
I was also thinking the same question, Prabhuji. Maybe repetition puts more emphasis.
All right. Okay, Shivatsa Prabhu also says because of memory lies. Okay. So let me answer that there is a progression in Bhagavad Gita. So Krishna explained from Karma Kanda to Karma Yoga to Bhakti Yoga, and chapter 9 has same concepts, but they are explained in deeper manner. And Bhagavad Gita shows us how to live. So it's of course repetition of course helps. And the same concepts that Krishna briefly introduced in chapter 7. So understand what was going on. That chapter 6, he talked about Ashtanga Yoga. Arjuna says, it's very difficult to follow. Therefore, Krishna is now giving an alternative approach. The chapter 7, Krishna only briefly talked about Bhakti Yoga, so that he can do a comparison in chapter 8 of Bhakti Yoga and Ashtanga Yoga to establish that how Bhakti Yoga is easier process to follow. And now in chapter 9, he is explaining Bhakti Yoga, the same points in little more deeper way. So the whole chapter 9 culminates with glory of Krishna and glory of the path of devotion to Krishna, means the Bhakti Yoga process. So the most confidential knowledge is that Krishna is supreme God of love and he is conquered by those who love him. So in chapter 7, focus was knowledge about Krishna. Chapter 9 focuses Kevala Bhakti. Everybody on the same page before we start discussing verses? Or not, Mansi?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Prabhu, my question is like, what's the correct approach for reading this chapter 9? If we have two Bhagavad Gita side by side, so to read verses 1 to 3 and then switch to chapter 7, or read first verse of chapter 9 and then read first verse of chapter 7?
So chapter 7 you already know. You have a brief understanding of chapter 7. So you can just continue chapter 9. You want, you can read chapter 7 side by side, but you essentially know. And from this overview, I have given very brief as to what chapter 7 verses cover. So if you were taking notes, you kind of already know, and the memory gets refreshed very easily from this. And I would say you can just follow chapter 9 and follow the brief instruction that I have given for chapter 7, but there's no stopping you from reading chapter 7 verses side by side as well. Onak Prabhu?
Okay, Prabhu, got it. Thank you.
All right. So we'll read verse number 1. Megha, verse number 1, translation and paragraph purport 1.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, My dear Arjuna, because you are never envious of me, I shall impart to you this most confidential knowledge and realization, knowing which you shall be relieved of the miseries of material existence. As a devotee hears more and more about the Supreme Lord, he becomes enlightened. This hearing process is recommended in the Srimad Bhagavatam. The messages of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are full of potencies, and these potencies can be realized if topics regarding the Supreme Godhead are discussed amongst devotees. This cannot be achieved by the association of mental speculators or academic scholars, for it is realized knowledge. Any question?
So, what is the connection between devotion and envy? Devotion and envy are opposite emotions. Devotion means we rejoice in Krishna's glory. Envy means we burn because of Krishna's glory. In devotion, the more we understand Krishna's glory, the more our heart floods with joy. When we are in competition with Krishna, the more we hear Krishna's glory, the more we feel envy and more we feel, I want to be like that. So envy is already there in my heart. And when we hear Krishna's glory, then our envy grows all the more. That's why Krishna does not reveal his glories to the envious, because Krishna does not want the envious to be more offensive. And thus Krishna creates Krishna does not want to create spiritual misfortune for those who are envious. Krishna reveals his glories to those who are devoted and those who are devotionally pious. So let's practice looking up Bhagavad Gita verse from Sanskrit index. So yes, you can use electronic, but if you want to develop personal close relationship with Krishna, then you should have the physical copy of Bhagavad Gita, because Bhagavad Gita is not an ordinary book. This is Gopinath himself. So I want all of you to go to your Sanskrit index. And why I want you to do this practice is because the spiritual endeavor that I'm going to give you tonight, by end of class today, is also going to involve looking up from index. So I want you to look up Gyan Vigyan Tritatma. We also have it on screen. Tell me what verse you find.
Verse 6.8.
Okay. Rest of you, what did you find? Anybody not able to find?
6.8, Prabhuji.
Okay. Anybody not able to find? Okay, if you found, say yes, you found. Or if you didn't find, say you didn't find. But silence doesn't help me.
Found.
Yes,
Yes,
Prabhuji.
Prabhuji.
Yes.
6.8.
All right. So, Mansi, read 6.8 purport first line.
6. Hare Krishna Prabhu, just a minute. I'll open. 6.8 purport first line, right, Prabhu?
Yeah.
Book knowledge without realization of the supreme truth is useless. This is the state as follows.
Right. So, book knowledge without realization is useless. So, in 9.1, Krishna is saying that I will give you realization also. So, one who has knowledge and realization, that person becomes satisfied. So, jnana refers to theoretical knowledge. That what Bhakti Yoga offers is not just theoretical knowledge of Krishna, rather is transformational, realizational knowledge. So what will happen with this knowledge? By this knowledge, you will become free from miseries of material existence. Meaning the inauspiciousness that will result in misery in future, that will stop. So Krishna does not say that you will become free from misery right now. No. Material world, we cannot become free from misery entirely immediately. So what Krishna is explaining, that you will do activity that will create pious results, and you will not do activity that will lead to misery in future. Therefore, on a go forward basis, you will become free from misery. Now, here's a question. How can Krishna give jnana and vijnana? That how can Krishna give knowledge and realization? Knowledge is something that one can give, but realization is something that we have to get by ourselves. So how can Krishna give realization? The answer is, yes, realization we have to get by ourselves. But Krishna will give the process by which we can get the realization. When process is given, then that helps us to apply. So jnana is like a diagnosis, and vijnana is like the prescription. Example, if I have pain in my body and the doctor gives me diagnosis and says, okay, now you can go. What am I going to do with that diagnosis? Diagnosis is not of much use without prescription. Therefore, doctor will give you the prescription also that, okay, you stop doing this or take this medication. Then that diagnosis is useful and then I will get cured. Similarly, Krishna will give the diagnosis, means the knowledge, and Krishna will also give the prescription, means the process to get to the realization. And this is how we will be free from misery gradually. Srivatsa Prabhu has a question, realization.
Yes, Prabhu, I have a question on this knowledge versus realization. You mentioned the word process for realization, and I am wondering how that is possible, because process is a redundant, logical thing, and realization is something that is activated from the heart space. Jnana and Vijnana is something from the mind and the intellect. So processes and logical systems might work.
So we
But
have discussed this in chapter 3, the point about religion and philosophy. So bhakti process is essentially your heart is involved. So we have discussed this example in chapter 3.
no, that's what I'm saying. I realize this, which is why I made the distinction.
Let me finish.
No, I am also making a distinction, Prabhu.
So just as in a laboratory, you do an experiment in a lab, similarly, in the Bhakti Yoga process, our heart is the laboratory. So Krishna is giving the Bhakti Yoga process where your heart is involved and your heart is transformed. That's why this is a process of realization.
But the Lord's grace is ultimately the key that unlocks.
You are correct. You are correct. So this is identified with the Damodar Leela. Does anybody know that when Mother Yashoda was trying to bind Krishna to the mortar, what happened when she was trying to bind and she was not successful? What was going on?
The rope just kept.
Follow me.
Prabhuji, during that time, two finger space of the rope was falling short. And when that happened, she tried a lot of times. So first time, I think she prayed to Sri Krishna, to Narayanji, that please can you help? And first, I think was the distance between the Bhakta and the Lord dissolves, and then the Lord becomes bonded to the Bhakta completely, if I
Very
remember.
good. Very good. So the two fingers. So Mother Yashoda kept increasing the length of the rope, but the ropes were always short 2 fingers. And the 2 fingers signify that one, Mother Yashoda did not give up, means the endeavor continued. And the second finger means the distance of the shortage of the rope is Lord's mercy. Right? So we have to endeavor. And we have to rely on the Lord to shower His mercy. Only then we can get realization. Srivasa Prabhu.
Got it, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Very good inquiry. Questions, comments, realizations? Priyadarshini, 9.1, fourth paragraph, if you want to read. Paragraph starts, now this first verse has specific significance.
Yes, Prabhu. Now this first verse has specific significance. The words idam jnanam, this knowledge, refer to pure devotional service, which consists of 9 different activities: hearing, chanting, remembering, serving, worshipping, praying, obeying, maintaining friendship, and surrendering everything. By the practice of these 9 elements of devotional service, one is elevated to spiritual consciousness, Krishna consciousness. When one's heart is thus cleared of material contamination, one can understand the signs of Krishna. Simply to understand that a living entity is not material is not sufficient. That may be the beginning of spiritual realization, but one should recognize the difference between activities of the body and the spiritual activities of one who understands that he is not the body. Can I continue, Prabhuji?
No, that's it. So Prabhupada explained that you have to follow one of the 9 processes of pure devotional service, which are described in Srimad Bhagavatam 7.5.23. Starts with Shravanam, Vishnu, Smaranam. And then you will come to getting the realizations. Questions, comments, realizations? All right. So 9.2 is obviously a key memorization verse and a very important verse. I will recite the Sanskrit of 9.2 and then you all can also unmute and recite one line after me, please. Now, if you look at the Sanskrit, the third line, the first word is a very long word. So how do you pronounce this word? You follow the word for word that Prabhupada has given. So Prabhupada has broken the word, the first word in the third line. Prabhupada has broken it as Pratyaksha Avagamam Dharmyam. So you follow the word for word and then you will be able to pronounce the Sanskrit properly. So I will recite 9.2 first. 9.2. Rajvidya Rajaguhyam Pavitramidam Uttamam Pratyaksha Avagamam Dharmyam Susukham Kartum Avyayam. I request all of you to please unmute and recite one line after me, please. Rajvidya Rajaguhyam Pavitram Idam Uttamam
Pavitram idam uttamam
Pratyaksha Avagamam Dharmyam
Prataksha
Pratyaksha avagamam dharmam
Susukham Kartum Avyayam.
Susukham
Sukham Kartum
Kartum
Avyayam.
Avyayam.
Translation.
Prabhuji, me?
Yeah, Janisha, go ahead. You can go ahead.
Okay. Hare Krishna. This knowledge is the king of education, the most sacred of all secrets. It is the purest knowledge, and because it gives direct perception of the self by realization, it is the perfection of a religion. It is everlasting and it is joyfully performed. Hare Krishna.
So there are many key points in the verse and the purport. And I will also answer the previous open-ended question about what nuclear bombs cannot destroy very soon in this discussion. So Srila Prabhupada explains all these points in his detailed purport. The purport is very long. So in this significant verse, first he says, this is king of knowledge, the most confidential knowledge, supremely pure, beyond the darkness of this world, gives realization of perfection of religion, and is joyfully performed. All these points Prabhupada explains at great length in the purport. So the word Rajavidya can be looked at in two ways. One is, it can be king of knowledge, or the other way is knowledge of the kings. Now let's look at the second meaning. Knowledge of the king means Krishna has described this in Bhagavad Gita chapter 4 verse number 2, Imam Raj Rashayo Vidu, that this knowledge is acquired by Raj Rishi, means great saintly king. So we have discussed this in 4.2, that the word Raj Rishi, Raja means king and Rishi means saint. Normally they are different individuals, that king and sage are opposite persons, that sages are renounced while kings are not. So Raja is outer ruler, has power, has control, has servants, while Rishi is inner ruler, means Rishi has control of the inner world, has sense control. So when both these are combined, means the outer control and the inner control are combined in one person, that person becomes Raj Rishi. So question becomes, why Krishna is saying of the kings, that why is Bhagavad Gita of the kings? And question is Bhagavad Gita meant only for kings, or are all of us kings, or is Bhagavad Gita meant to make us kings? What exactly is the meaning of this? The answer is Bhagavad Gita does not talk about renouncing the world. Bhagavad Gita talks about living and acting in the world and pursuing liberation and transcendence by acting in the world. Brahmanas give knowledge and Kshatriyas, they act and implement knowledge through their policies. If those leading or ruling are not spiritually educated, then they will act according to their own ideas, which can lead to troubles, which is what is happening in the entire world. Just look around what is going on in the world. But if the leaders are spiritually guided, then they will act and rule properly. Plus, they will also set up systems by which this knowledge can be shared amongst the people of the world. So the idea is not to limit the spiritual knowledge to a particular community. Rather, the idea is to strategize, to give the knowledge to the king so that this knowledge is most effectively distributed to rest of the citizens through the policies that the leaders and the Kshatriyas implement. So Kshatriya influence the world, and if they are inspired by knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, then they will be able to give this knowledge to everyone. Therefore, this meaning Rajavidya, that this is Vidya of the kings. Now, the other meaning, Rajavidya, means king of all knowledge. And this is where you got this spiritual endeavor homework question from previous class, that what can nuclear bombs not destroy? So like a king is the most powerful, king can bring about most transformation. Hence, among different kinds of knowledge, this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita can bring greatest transformation. Nuclear bombs cannot destroy the bad habits of even a single person. Nuclear bombs cannot destroy the inclinations of even a single person. Yes, the physical body can be destroyed, but the bad inclinations are not destroyed, and next life their mental inclination will continue. Well, then what was the point of destroying using the nuclear bomb? Because nothing really got destroyed. Yeah, physical body got destroyed, the people died, and well, they take birth again and they just continue their bad inclination. So karma continues, devotional service continues, the credits that you have accumulated, devotional credits, they are not destroyed. The cycle of birth and death continues. So we will discuss this in Srimad Bhagavatam, that how the souls come in front of Brahmaji during their next life with their inclinations, and Brahmaji is given the ability to see our inclinations, and when we go in front of Brahmaji, all Brahmaji does is he matches us to one-on-one with the one of the 8.4 million life forms, in which that particular inclination is perfectly satisfied. But the spiritual knowledge that Bhagavad Gita is providing us has such transformational potencies that it can destroy, completely eradicate all bad inclinations. Therefore, this is Rajavidya. the most powerful knowledge. So many of you did get components of this answer right, that yes, the atom or prakriti, material nature, universe, this creation, the connection between Supreme Lord and the material nature, all these cannot be destroyed. Our cycle of birth and death cannot be destroyed. Our good and bad karma, our past karmic reactions cannot be destroyed. And that Kala means time. Lord Krishna is eternal, unborn, and indestructible. So no power can affect Kala and Krishna. And bhakti cannot be destroyed by nuclear bombs. Our love for Krishna cannot be destroyed, and our progress towards spiritual world cannot be destroyed. So many of you gave individual. I'm just explaining in summary form rather than going in every single minute detail. Now, there were two other answers, which was that faith cannot be destroyed and compassion cannot be destroyed. Now, faith is very easy to transfer and transform. So you will notice that, say, many Christians becomes Hindus, or Hindus become Christians, or they change their faith from one faith to other. This is very, very easy to change. So faith is not eternal. Faith can be changed. And we already had a lot of discussion about faith, and we'll have a detailed discussion about faith in chapter 17 also. That faith is like a muscle. You can increase and decrease based on your Krishna conscious activities and not doing Krishna conscious activities. Similarly, compassion also, you can grow if you don't have compassion. I will pause here before we read the purpose. Everybody on the same page? Does that answer the question, what nuclear bombs not destroy, and why I gave you this answer or this question?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Yes, so this is a very nice way to put the Raj, why this knowledge is king of knowledge. Fine. Thank you.
Yeah, very good. Srivatsa Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, I had a question about the last little bit you mentioned about faith. I was just wondering what the source of faith is. Is it coming? Is it coming out of uh, confusion, lack of absolute truth awareness? Is it
So
coming from?
we'll discuss this in chapter 14. There's a detailed discussion coming up.
Okay.
I'll briefly answer that faith comes from our past karmic reactions and our past inclinations on which modes we like to associate.
Hmm.
So it comes, we get a default setting based on that. But that does not mean that we cannot change.
So, Prabhu, since a lot of people exist in that, is that an illusory state of existence since it is not eternal?
It is not illusory state. Faith is real, meaning it's in a subtle form in your body that you have a certain inclination to certain things.
Hmm. Hmm. Yes, true. So it's nuanced, kind of. It's fine. Yes. Okay. Thank you, Prabhu.
So we'll go to chapter 9, verse number 2. Chaitanya Prabhu will read purport, paragraph number 1 and 2. Chaitanya Prabhu. Parth Prabhu, 9.2, paragraph 1 and 2.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Chapter 9, verse 2, purport. The chapter of Bhagavad Gita is called the king of education because it is the essence of all doctrines and philosophies explained before. Among the principal philosophers in India are Gautama, Kandala, Kapila, Yana, Valka, Sandilla, and Vaishvanara. And finally, there is Vyasdeva, the author of the Vedanta Sutra. So there is no dearth of knowledge in the field of philosophy or transcendental knowledge. Now the Lord says that this ninth chapter is the king of all such knowledge, the essence of all knowledge that can be derived from the study of the Vedas and different kinds of philosophy. It is the most confidential because confidential or transcendental knowledge involves understanding the difference between the soul and the body. And the king of all confidential knowledge culminates in devotional service. Generally, people are not educated in the confidential knowledge, they are educated in external knowledge. As far as ordinary education is concerned, people are involved with so many departments: politics, sociology, physics, chemistry, mathematics, astronomy, engineering, etc. There are so many departments of knowledge all over the world and many huge universities, but there is unfortunately no university or educational institution where the science of the spirit soul is instructed. Yet the soul is the most important part of the body. Without the presence of the soul, the body has no value. Still, people are placing great stress on the bodily necessities of life, not caring for the vital soul. Hare Krishna.
So, Prabhupada has explained this point in many lectures that Prabhupada traveled all over the world so many times, and Prabhupada said, I cannot find a single university all over the world that talks about the soul, when soul is the most important part of the body. Everybody is simply focused on external material world knowledge. Well, that knowledge is not really knowledge because it's largely focused on earning money and how I can enjoy. And therefore, in Sri Upanishad, the material world knowledge is actually called ignorance because it's not helping you get out of material world. Questions, comments, realizations? Then 9.2 continues, Pavitram idam uttamam, that this is supremely purifying. So sinful reactions can stay in various stages. One is aprarabdha, means that which is not yet fructified. So every action we do, we are sowing a seed. So seed will grow first to a sapling, then to a tree, and then will give fruit. So the fruits we have to accept of our karma, we cannot avoid. The law of karma, every action we do is sowing a seed, will produce a reaction, and we cannot even avoid reaction. Then the next way the sinful reaction sits is prarabdha, means that which has already fructified. So either good or bad. So some people are good looking and some are not. Some are sick and some are not. All this is because of prarabdha karma, means the karma that has fructified. Then another stage would be kutam, means very tiny, that is not even in seed form. It's less than seed form, and then it could be bijam, means that it has become seed and will grow. And then phalam mukam means it is about to fructify. So karma can sit in various stages. So the solution of all karma to destroy, past, present, and future, in whichever stage it is if one engages in devotional service. Similar to how say a seed that is fried on a pan and then you sow the seed in the ground, but it will not fructify. Similarly, the process of bhakti frees us from sinful reactions because it fries up our karmic reaction seeds. And then 9.2 says, Pavitram, because it purifies, knowledge is pure and it purifies us of sinful reactions. as well as our sinful tendencies. So let's read purports, paragraph number 4, 5, and 6. Summa, paragraph number 4, it starts this knowledge. You read 4, 5, and 6.
Yes. This knowledge is the purest form of all activities as explained in the Vedic literature. In the Padma Purana, man's sinful activities have been analyzed and are shown to be the results of sin after sin. Those who are engaged in fruitive activities are entangled in different stages and forms of sinful reactions. For instance, when the seed of a particular tree is sown, the tree does not appear immediately to grow. It takes some time. It is first a small sprouting plant, then it assumes the form of a tree, and then it flowers and bears fruits. And when it is complete, the flowers and fruits are enjoyed by persons who have sown the seed of the tree. Similarly, a man performs a sinful act, and like a seed, it takes time to fructify. There are different stages. The sinful action may have already stopped within the individual, but the result or the fruit of that sinful action is still to be suffered. There are sins that are still in the form of a seed, and there are others which are already fructified and are giving us fruits which we are experiencing as distress and pain. As explained in the 28th verse of the 7th chapter, a person who has completely ended the reactions of all sinful activities and who is fully engaged in pious activities, being freed from the duality of this material world, becomes engaged in devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna. In other words, those who are actually engaged in the devotional service of the Supreme Lord are already freed from all reactions. This statement is confirmed in the Padma Purana. Apradha pa- Falgam Papam Kutam Bijam Falmukham Kram Kramneva Pralyata Vishnu Bhakti Rata Manam. For those who are engaged in the devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, all sinful reactions, whether fructified in the stalk or in form of seed, gradually vanish. Therefore, the purifying potency of the devotional service is very strong and is called Pavitram Uttam, the purest. Uttam means transcendental, tamas means this material world or darkness, and uttam uttama means the that which is transcendental to material activities. Devotional activities are never to be considered material, although sometimes it appears that devotees are engaged just like ordinary men. One who can see and is familiar with devotional service will know that they are not material activities, they are all spiritual and devotional, uncontaminated by the material modes of nature.
Questions, comments, realizations, what I described about the various stages, Prabhupada explains that point also in the purports. Okay, I'll continue. So then the third line of the verse says, Pratyaksha avagamam dharmyam. So execution of devotional service is so perfect that one can perceive the results of pleasure and purification directly, can experience results only when one engages in bhakti. You cannot experience results independent of bhakti. Therefore, the conversation we were having with Shivasa Prabhu a few minutes ago, that yes, we have to endeavor, our heart get involved. That's when you will experience the results. So if you are engaging in bhakti on a part-time basis, then your experience will also be part-time and the results will not last very long. So We have discussed this in Bhagavad Gita chapter 1, that there are three ways to get evidence. Pratyaksha means sensory perception, and Anuman means mental speculation or hypothesis, and Shabda means scriptural revelation, and Shabda is the most authoritative. Pratyaksha is very dangerous, is not recommended. So here the verse, it's not just Pratyaksha, rather it is Pratyaksha Avagamam, meaning it is directly experienced. There may be some sensory perception, but largely the experience is within the heart. So question becomes, how does this experience in the heart takes place? We say, I got some realization. So what essentially is realization? We have discussed the definition of realization also earlier. That realization means that which is a reality that we accept to be a reality. An example to understand this is that this material world is a place of misery. It is a reality, but I have not accepted it. I think material world is a place for my enjoyment. But when we experience some great misery, that's when we understand, oh, this world is a place of misery. That's when we get this realization. This is how realization works. Now, question is, with an example that says someone gets a terrible disease. In that terrible suffering, they take shelter of Krishna intensely, and thus they transcend their suffering and they live in association of devotees. So question becomes, and all of you can try to answer, did disease make them serious in Krishna consciousness? Did disease give them bhakti? Everybody? Srivatsa?
Um, Disease perhaps taught them the reality, like you said, Prabhu, that the body is not everything. And usually, people who are based in flesh based consciousness, when flesh based things and material desires are taken away from them, they realize that permanent pleasure, it is in fact a fleeting pleasure. So that is when they often transform. So pain can be a teacher, a very good one sometimes.
Okay, so did they get bhakti from pain?
I don't know. That's a good question, Prabhu.
All right. Anybody else?
Prabhuji, we have earlier read that four kind of people get connected to Sri Krishna when we are in distress, we need wealth, and we are inquisitive, or we want to know the absolute truth. So I think that we are in huge distress when we are undergoing this health problem. So at that time, Krishna treats us equally considerable, that at least we are going towards bhakti, and there are some reasons and bases only for us to get connected to Sri Krishna in this form.
So are you saying you got bhakti from pain, misery?
That is the source, according to me, for that point.
All right. So a couple devotees in the chat are saying that we have discussed that bhakti is the cause of bhakti. Then Abhishek is saying this, and then Paulam is saying maybe pain is the catalyst, not the cause. Very good. Anybody else? Last wants to try, Srivasa Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhu, I'll take another swing. Based on what you just read, pain is the catalyst that basically it raises us to a higher platform upon which we actually begin to, since we are more aligned with the truth, we now realize who is in control, and therefore we begin to build a taste for it, from which bhakti emerges.
Okay, so let me answer. So disease, pain, misery, etc. cannot produce bhakti. Only bhakti produces bhakti, what Abhishek Prabhu has correctly mentioned in the chat. Disease can be an impetus, just as Polomi and others, Srivatsa and others were saying about being a catalyst. So yes, disease can be an impetus to take shelter of Krishna, but it is one's attitude and the mercy of devotees and Krishna which enables us to take shelter of Krishna. Some other people in the material world, when they get terrible disease, then they take shelter of resentment against Krishna. That why did Krishna did this to me? Then they will not get positive results. They will not get bhakti. So what Megha was saying that, okay, misery is the cause. No, misery is not the cause, but what you do with that misery determines whether you are progressing towards bhakti or not. Only bhakti produces bhakti. Misery, disease, pain, etc. can just be an impetus to take you closer to Krishna. So here's a question for all of you. Should we pray for disease or pain or misery to get this impetus? Everybody?
No, Prabhuji.
Rest of you?
No, Prabhuji.
All right. Deepa also says no way. Okay, only few. Srivatsa Prabhu.
Prabhu, I had a quick question. Is that okay?
Hold on, but let's finish this thought first.
Okay.
I'm confused on this point.
So do you pray for disease, pain, misery to get this impetus? Abhishek Prabhu?
I said that I'm confused on this point.
Oh, okay. Follow me.
Prabhuji, if it's an extremely high devotee who always wishes to realize the importance of God, maybe they can. You mentioned the story of Kunti Maharani ji, that she used to pray that let us always give me material pain so that I know you're in control. But only a very high devotee can do that, you mentioned. It's impossible to ask.
Ritu?
Yes, Prabhuji, the same, like follow me. I was also discussing Kunti ji.
Okay. So then what should you pray for? You go to pray every day. Then what should you pray for? Somebody wants to try?
We should ask for bhakti.
Very good. So rather than praying for suffering so that I may become serious in Krishna consciousness, no, we don't have to pray for suffering. Rather, we should pray for more service for Krishna, or what Ritu says as bhakti. So Palomi is correct. Kunti Maharani is at pure devotional level. I am not there. We have to pray according to our level. We cannot pray for miseries. That is for pure elevated devotees. We should pray, Krishna, please engage me in services. When we chant, Srimati Radharani, oh Srimati Radharani, oh Krishna, please engage me in services. That's what we should pray. So, did realization come from suffering? Realization does not come from suffering. Rather, realization comes from our response to suffering. So, everybody in the material world gets misery, but it's only very tiny set of people in the whole world that take that misery and come to Krishna. Everybody else gets resentment to Krishna. Why is Krishna doing this to me? Or they don't know Krishna, so they say, why is God doing this to me? Abhishek Prabhu, does that clarify?
Yes, Prabhuji.
So let me finish this and then we'll come to Srivatsa Prabhu's question. We'll finish this word. The last line says, Susukam kartum avyavam. That devotional service is joyful because Krishna is source of joy. So when we connect with Krishna, it naturally brings joy to us also. So Srila Prabhupada says it is susukam because one can render devotional service anytime Honor prasadam anytime. Offer Tulsi Maharani to Krishna anytime. And Srila Prabhupada lastly states that this is eternal, avyayam. Avyayam is very important because once you established in devotional service, it continues forever. That is essentially 9.2, which is a very important verse. Try to memorize. Questions, comments, realizations on 9.2 or anything?
I actually have a realization. So as you said, like from misery, like, realization doesn't come from misery, but response to misery. So yes, I was one of those people who used to always like complain. Obviously, I didn't know Krishna, so it was more like to the demigods, like, why am I suffering and why am I in pain? And I used to resent a lot, like to the extent that I used to like just stop praying. It was mainly in India when I was failing my CA exams. But then yes, eventually I just surrendered and I realized that it's his will and it's making me strong. And now thankfully I'm not on such a path. But yes, it was like this point really hit home.
Yeah, very good. Very good. Thank you for listening with rapt attention that yes, everybody in the material world gets miseries. But as Samba was explaining, many people say, why is God doing this to me? So we have to transform and use the misery as an impetus to come closer to Krishna and do devotional service. Although we don't ask for miseries, when miseries come by itself, which is every other day or every day, use that for Krishna. Only bhakti comes from Krishna. Bhakti. Very good. Srivatsa Prabhu, you had a question earlier.
Yes, Prabhu, it was on the same lines. It was basically, in a lot of not necessarily other schools of thought, self-help books, etc. The theme of pain being a great teacher persists, and it is also here, in Shastra, what we are talking about. I remember very well. My first class was also just before your spiritual breakthrough. You had mentioned about how Maya gives you incredible resistance. So, in general, if you're not aligned, all these concepts, if you were to put together, and if you're not aligned with a greater will, if you're not in a higher state of realization, is it safe to assume that pain in general, resistance in general from the material world through people, through circumstances, are stepping stones for ascension?
It depends on your reaction. So all the miseries are your karmic reactions, and what you do with those miseries, you can either come closer to Krishna or you resent to God.
But
Depends
is
on
there
what you do with it.
But is there a distinction, Prabhu, like karmic reactionary miseries and actual blockages placed by Maya to stop your growth?
So
Is there
they are all karmic miseries. Maya Devi simply so this is a discussion coming up, although we have discussed this earlier also. Srivatsa Prabhu may or may not have been present at that time. So what Maya Devi does is, as part of the test, this test is mandatory that all of you will go through, all devotees go through, that Maya Devi will give you miseries in bulk. Instead of you getting miseries one day, then another misery next week and another misery next month, she will bring all of them together and give you in bulk to determine how much focused are you on Krishna, and that becomes your test. That are you able to survive through those miseries? And we have discussed at great length that in those miseries, devotee association is your only and best defense. And generally, the devotee going through this Maya's test, the devotee does not even recognize. So somebody else was to recognize for the devotee that this is Maya testing you. So the Maya's test, I have given examples earlier. What Maya will do is that the miseries will be in bulk or one after the other, or Maya will make you so much busy in the material world that you have no time for spirituality, just to take you away from Krishna. And if your faith is strong in Krishna, then these miseries will not affect you. You will say, okay, I know I have so many material things to do, but Krishna is still my priority. Therefore, many of us have heard this lecture multiple times, and I have also posted this in the WhatsApp group where Chitran Chandas has explained. The first priority is to keep the first priority as the first priority. What Maya Devi does with her test, meaning all these miseries or making you busy in the material world, is to make Krishna as your priority number 2, priority number 10, then priority number infinity, so that you are away from Krishna. But if Krishna is your priority number 1, then you will say, okay, I have this material world busyness, but I will somehow try to find my time for Krishna, because that is my priority number 1. Srivastava Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu. So as you go higher and higher, warfare intensifies.
You are correct. I have explained this also, that that frequency of Maya Devi's test and severity of Maya Devi's test will keep on increasing one after the other. One devotee virtually present among us right now messaged me one time, just recently, that how can I stop Maya Devi from testing me? And I said, no, you cannot stop Maya Devi from testing you. I have explained the severity will increase and the frequency of the test will increase. What we have to do is we have to prepare ourselves to ensure that Krishna stays as our priority number 1. Does that
Yes,
answer
thank
your
you so
inquiry?
much. Absolutely. Thank you, Prabhu.
Very good. Rest of you, questions, comments, realizations? All right. So let's cover verse number 3, which is in this section, section 1 of chapter 9, and then we'll cover rest in the next class because there's a sequence of verses. Ritu, verse number 3 translation.
Hare Krishna, text 3. Those who are not faithful in this devotional service cannot attain me. O conqueror of enemies, therefore they return to the path of birth and death in this material world. Hare Krishna.
So here Krishna is describing the consequence of faithlessness being the continuation of cycle of birth and death. If we cannot put faith on the medicine, then the disease will continue. The medicine here being the Bhakti Yoga process, and the disease being the bodily concept of life, material world existence. Similarly, Krishna is telling that this medicine can cure you. But if you don't have faith in the medicine, then you will not take the medicine. Hence, the two results will happen. One is you cannot attain Krishna, and second, you will continue the cycle of birth and death. So Raksha will read purport paragraph number 1 as well as the first line in the second paragraph.
Purport: the faithless cannot accomplish this process of devotional service. That is the purport of this verse. Faith is created by association with devotees. Unfortunate people, even after hearing all the evidence of Vedic literature from great personalities, still have no faith in God. They are hesitant and cannot stay fixed in the devotional service of the Lord. Thus, faith is a most important factor for progress in Krishna consciousness. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is said that faith is the complete conviction that simply by serving the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, one can achieve all perfection. That is called real faith, as stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Yatha Taror Mula Niseshachanena Tripyanti Tat Skanda Bhujopasakha Prano Praharak cha Yathendriyanam Tathaiva Sarvarhanam Achutecha. By giving water to the root of a tree, one satisfies its branches, twigs, and leaves, and by supplying food to the stomach, one satisfies all the senses of the body. Similarly, by engaging in the transcendental service of the Supreme Lord, one automatically satisfies all the demigods and all other living entities. Therefore, after reading Bhagavad Gita, one should promptly come to the conclusion of Bhagavad Gita. One should give up all other engagements and adopt the service of the Supreme Lord Krishna, the personality of Godhead. If one is convinced of this philosophy of life, that is faith. The next line, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
Now, the development of that faith is the process of Krishna consciousness.
Prabhupada says, the development of that faith is the process of Krishna consciousness. Means the process of Krishna consciousness is supposed to develop our faith. We are developing faith, then we are doing Krishna conscious activity. So I have described multiple times, including today, that faith is like a muscle. So somebody is born with a heavy muscle, and if he does not exercise, then he will lose the heavy muscle. Or if somebody is born very thin with very little muscle, but if he exercises, then he can develop his muscle. Similarly, somebody will be born with lot of faith in spirituality, but if he is associating with demoniac people or materialistic people, well, then he will lose his faith. And if somebody is not born with Krishna conscious faith, but if he engages in Krishna conscious activities such as reading scriptures, associating with devotees, chanting japa, doing services, etc., then his faith will increase. And that's what Prabhupada says. Development of this faith is the process of Krishna consciousness. We have also discussed faith at great length in 3.31 and 32, as well as in 4.39 and 40, where Krishna has done a comparison of faith and faithlessness. And there will be a further discussion on faith coming up in chapter 17. The whole chapter is on faith. So I will play Chaitanya Chanda's lecture here, which is a very short lecture, essentially hitting on the point of faith. Let's hear and take notes. It's just about 1.5 minute lecture, and we'll come back to discuss.
Devotional service is not just a matter of external engagement. It is also a matter of inner involvement. I may chant Hare Krishna, I may go to a temple, I may dance in Kirtan. All this is good. All this is essential also. But through all this, ultimately my heart has to be involved. And if I'm just going through the motions of doing these things, and internally I'm being eaten away by doubts, then eventually those doubts will manifest externally and will give up those activities. So that's why if somebody is not working on resolving the doubts, working on developing faith, then if the person supposedly engaged in devotional service for some other motive apart from purification and elevation, then one will not be able to continue for very long. So how do we work on our faith? We have to find out what are the things that increase our faith and do those activities. It's like muscles we discussed earlier. By exercising, the muscles grow. Similarly, we find out what is it that increases our faith. It will be studying the philosophy more, it will be associated with particular devotees. doing certain activities that actually help us feel the purification, the satisfaction in the heart. And by that we increase our faith. And there are certain issues which we can put in a state of suspended judgment if they trouble us too much, and keep moving forward and doing those things which help us develop our faith.
Okay, what did he explain? Ritu?
Prabhuji is saying that our heart should be involved in devotional service. It is very important. And we should find out the services which can increase our faith.
We discussed the same point few minutes ago, earlier with Shivasa Prabhu's question that heart is involved. Very good. Megha?
Yes, Prabhuji, faith includes internal involvement, which includes our heart, and it is like a muscle. We need to notice that what increases our faith.
Yeah, very good. Rest of you?
Yeah, I listen to it. He also said that if there is some ulterior motive, then if the motive is not purification, then at some point it will come out.
Yeah, very good. Right. So our purpose of doing devotional service should be purification, not some ulterior motives that I want to do some business. Yeah, very good. Questions, comments, realizations before I give you spiritual endeavor, and I'll talk about the Bhagavatam class.
Prabhuji, I have a query. I can say it's a general statement. Like I have heard about people talking about past regression therapy or Akashic records. So like Akash has all the records of your previous karma. So how much legit is it and how much authentic they are, or do they exist even or not? Like just from Bhagavad Gita point of view, is there any standpoint on these?
So it's I don't know what you are referring to as Akash, but in terms of the point of our karmic activity in a book of accounts. So there are personalities sitting in our shoulders. Whatever activity we do, it gets noted down in our karmic book. And of course, Paramatma is also present in our heart or in the region of our heart as super soul, as Paramatma, as the observer and sanctioner of our deeds. So yes, our activities are written down on a book of accounts, and when we leave this body and we go to the next before the next life, depending on our destination, if we go to Yamraj, well, then Yamraj will have our book of accounts. Well, you did these things wrongs, and he will award the punishment accordingly. Or if we do devotional services like doing japa or reading scriptures, doing services, then that also gets recorded, and Vishnu Dutas will come and they will read the spiritual duties that we have done. So yes, it's written now for sure, whether or not I'm able to see or not. Megha?
Thank you, Prabhuji. That really makes sense because I do hear about these words, but I was really not sure that how much sense do they make in some legit sense. So yeah, thank you.
Okay. All right, homework questions. So if you are behind on getting caught up on spiritual endeavors, you can get caught up, but I request all of you to please endeavor on the homework question. There are only very few open-ended homework questions left. And this is all for you to become diligent and for you to transform. So it is very important that all of you endeavor and complete your answers by Wednesday, end of day, and I post your answers on the Google form. And endeavor, we have discussed from the start as to what I have to do. So practice. Our Bhagavad Gita study is not theory only. No, we are studying philosophy, but we have to practice. So this homework question number 1 is more of my curiosity. So with this chapter 9, we are about to finish 50% of Bhagavad Gita. And for this question number 1, I will set a base and ask a question for which you all can answer right now to me by unmuting. So my first question is, how does Bhagavad Gita start? Or I mentioned about the first junction point. How does Bhagavad Gita start? All of you, please try to answer now. Everybody, somebody.
Hare Krishna.
Batan Prabhu,
Sanjay asking question to the king. King asking, Dhritarashtra asking question to Sanjay. What happened at the battlefield?
Yeah, so there was this setting the scene, but where exactly does Bhagavad Gita start?
Dharma Kshetra, Prabhu.
Okay, so that
No,
again is 1.1. Okay, Matan Prabhu is
Hare
saying,
Krishna.
yeah, Abhishek Prabhu.
It is 2.7, I think, or somewhere around that.
Yeah, okay, 2.7. Okay, very good. Ritu?
Yes, Prabhuji. 2.7.
Yeah, so Padma Kumar Prabhu is also right, 2.11. So 2.7 is the first junction point where before that, the whole setting of the scene, Arjuna gives 5 reasons. In 2.7, Arjuna says, I am in illusion, I am confused, I don't know, please instruct. Everybody on the same page, everybody understands that 2.7 is where Bhagavad Gita starts. 2.7 is the first junction point. Everybody, yes, no?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay, so here's question number 1, which you will answer. So in 2.7, Arjuna says to Krishna, I am in illusion, I am confused. So the question number 1 is, when does Arjuna regain his original unillusioned state? So I am sure many or all of you can find this verse from Bhagavad Gita. So I have taught you how to look up verses. So there should be an exact verse where Arjuna says, now I am not unillusioned. I have regained my memory. He should say something like that. So if you cannot find this verse, then you can please state at what point in Bhagavad Gita or what event in Bhagavad Gita do you think Arjuna comes out of illusion? Everybody on the same page? Everybody understands question number 1? I got silence.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay, right? Okay, so somebody will repeat that question number 1 is in 2.7, Arjuna says, I am in illusion. So there should be a verse where Arjuna says, my illusion is now dispelled. I have come out of ignorance, some to that effect. And I have shown you how to use Bhagavad Gita to find the answer. All right. So my question number 2, when Krishna, God, comes in front of you, what will you do or what will you say? Can you say, hey buddy, how are you? When can you say, hey buddy, how are you? Everybody likes the question.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, could you please repeat the second question?
Okay, I will repeat question number 2 and then somebody can repeat both homework questions. Question number 2 is, when Krishna, God, comes in front of you, what will you do or what will you say? Can you say, hey buddy, how are you? When can you say, hey buddy, how are you? Everybody on the same page? Everybody likes the questions? Ritu, follow me.
Second one is very difficult, Prabhuji.
Ritu.
Prabhuji, again, it is very simple for you. I'm just thinking how to complete the homework.
So this is our practice. So somebody please repeat the homework questions. Very important. This is our practice. I request all of you to please endeavor, whether or not you are caught up on past recordings. The approach should be continue current endeavors and get caught up little by little. Somebody please repeat the two homework questions that you will populate the answers on Google form by Wednesday end of day. Ritu wants to repeat.
Yeah, Prabhuji. First question is how does Bhagavad Gita starts? Second question is when Krishna comes in front of us.
No. That's not the first question. Okay, somebody please repeat question number 1 and 2.
Okay, so Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji.
Yeah, Janisha, go ahead.
Okay. So our first question is when Arjuna gets his unillusion version.
Unillusion
And
state.
the second question is what will you do or what will you say if Krishna appears in front of you? And can you say in a friendly way, how are you? Or when can you say, hey buddy, how are you? So this is the question.
Okay, very good. So I will repeat. Yeah, thank you. Janisha is correct. So Ritu, for your clarification. So when Bhagavad Gita starts, that was just to set the base. That 2.7 is where Bhagavad Gita starts, essentially. So homework question number 1 is that in 2.7, Arjuna says, I am in illusion. Therefore, question number 1 is, when does Arjuna regain his original unillusion state? So find an exact verse using Bhagavad Gita index, or if you don't find the verse, then at what point in Bhagavad Gita or what event in Bhagavad Gita do you think Arjuna comes out of illusion? Ritu, clear with the first question? Everybody clear?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Very good. And second question, although Janisha correctly stated, I will repeat that when Krishna, God, comes in front of you, what will you do or what will you say? Can you say, hey buddy, how are you? When can you say, hey buddy, how are you? Everybody, questions, comments, realizations? So there are only a couple of individuals, devotees not doing the endeavor. I request you to please endeavor and don't wait for getting caught up. No, endeavor right now because this is important. You can get caught up little by little. So the last point I will share is the Srimad Bhagavatam new batch is going to start for batch number 5 on Sundays, July 20, 2025 onwards. So it's Toronto time, 9:30 a.m., which is India time, 7 p.m. and Nepal time, 7:15 p.m. All of you are welcome to join this batch 5 as an additional class. Even if you are not able to join the Bhagavatam study because of your other priorities, I will request all of you to join at least the first 2 classes, which are the overview classes. So those of you who are in the process of getting caught up on past recordings, please get caught up. You have about a month's time to get caught up. Right now, you can get inspiration from Janisha, Riya Mukherjee, Annapurni, and Subhas Prabhus. They are endeavoring perfectly at super fast pace, simultaneously to attending current classes as well as endeavoring on current endeavor. So get inspired from Janisha, Riya, Annapurni, and Subhas Prabhus for those of you who are still in the process of getting caught up. We are just past. So Megha, for your physical copy of Srimad Bhagavatam, you can connect with me offline and I will explain that to you. So we are just past 11:45 a.m. Toronto time. We'll stop here. Hare Krishna, everybody.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Thank you,
Krishna
Thank you.
Prabhu.
Prabhuji. Thank you,
Thank you.
Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.